Hello, all, and welcome back to a new episode of TV and Us, a conversation show about the TV series we just can't stop talking about. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And each season we focus on a different show, reviewing it episode by episode. And we invite you to watch along with us. Right now, we have just embarked on our journey going through The Sopranos. And so we are starting with season 1. And today we're on episode 2, titled 42 Long. If you haven't watched this episode yet, this is your spoiler alert. We are about to dive in, so go watch the episode, come back, and listen to our conversation. So Sarah, do you want to kick us off with a summary for the second episode?
Really quickly, on IMDb it says 46 long.
Oh, is it 46 long? Typo.
That's what it says on IMDb.
Long.
I don't know. Does it say something
right.
else somewhere else?
Long.
Okay.
No, it's 46 long. My fingers hit the wrong key when I put that in my note.
Numbers are hard.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. IMDb summary, 46 long.
Oh, okay. All right. As Junior eyes revenge for a hijacking, Tony scrambles to recover a stolen teacher's car, calm Livia after a kitchen fire, and steer Christopher's reckless truck theft scheme before blood is spilled.
Okay, I have to say, in Wikipedia, in every episode, at least the first few that I've checked of The Sopranos, there is multiple of those like carousel sections that like the drawers that come out that you click that like open up. So there's one for synopsis, there's one for cast, there's one for like production, and there's one for deceased. And I just don't love that there's a whole dedicated section for who has died in this episode of The Sopranos. It just kind of tickled me. So shout out to the information hierarchy of these Wikipedia pages. All right, well, episode titles for the second one. Sarah, what is your episode title of choice for this episode?
My title is Scathed.
That is mine too.
Nice.
I love that.
Do you have any like runners up since we picked the same one?
That's the one that I was like, this is perfect. What are your runner ups?
I was also thinking about Sweetie Pie and Restitution was the other one that I was thinking of.
Nice. Great choices. But alas, we both, our brains melded on Scathed.
It's just so good.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive in. We're now on the second episode of this season of the show, and I'm curious your thoughts about how this episode landed with you.
Yeah. I think this one, I don't think is as good as the pilot episode. Like after the pilot episode, it's like, yes, let's go. I'm ready. And this episode, I think, is a little bit more in line with what I imagined, like the show as a whole to be. It's not bad. I'm not disinterested. I'm not disengaged. But I think the first episode landed so well to me that this almost was a little bit disappointing to me. Even though it's still very good, there's a lot of really exciting things that happen. There's some really great dialogue in this, but I think the pilot set the bar so high that this was almost like regression to the mean, basically. Like, okay, we're still coming. It's still a good episode, but I don't think it's as great as the first episode was. But yeah, a lot of juicy things happen in here. We're setting up, some exploration of some of these relationships that we had questions about after the first episode. So I'm curious to see how some of these threads continue to unravel over the rest of the season. What about you?
Yeah. I think that this episode, starts out stronger for me than I think where we kind of wander to. I'm sure a lot of it's going to be paid off. A lot of the setups and moments that happen in the second half will come later. But I think the first half is stronger. It really leans into the ideology and some of the themes that I think were being introduced in the first episode particularly around like the paranoia, the kind of instability of the time that they're living in, and how all of these men that have given themselves to this organization, this family together, have how are they thinking about it? I think those are some of the moments that were really interesting to me. We see some fixations from characters like Polly as well that I think are fascinating. But I think on the whole, this episode basically continues things that we already knew from the first episode. And I think that's maybe also, I was like looking for something new and interesting to sink my teeth into, but it kind of feels a continuation of a lot of the character dynamics, a lot of what we know about the characters, but maybe double clicking on it a little bit more. So, um, this is probably an episode that will like take us to the next one, you know, and I think that that's always an interesting way to like assess an episode, because I wonder if in a few episodes we're going to look back and be like, I see what they were planting seeds and laying the foundations of in that episode too. But the experience of watching it, I think, was a little less punchy than the first one for sure.
Yeah, this episode kind of felt like a pilot episode to me. It didn't
Mm,
seem like the second episode in a season to me. It almost felt like, here we are just like laying the foundation. So in my mind, it's almost a continuation of the pilot of,
pilot.
okay, we're
Yeah.
continuing to explore, and I'm curious to see if in the third episode things start to really pick up steam. We get some new pieces of information, all of that, because this episode didn't do a whole ton of that. We have some things happen that are setting up some cool things down the line. But yeah, it felt like a lot of foundation for me again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing is I felt like there wasn't as many new dimensions of Tony that I wanted to like unpack and uncover again. I think we obviously see this complicated relationship he has with his mother, with his family in general, that seems to really trigger these big emotional responses that sometimes lead to some physical responses. There's kind of guilt that I think is uncovered that is really interesting. But I think we knew some of that already, right? So I think as viewers are often really intrigued and lean in when there is dissonance. There's complexity that's introduced because, oh, we thought we knew this character, but oh, there's this new side of them that we're getting to see. And oh, they've made a decision that is different from what we expected that they might do. Why? What's happening? How are they changing? How are they evolving? And I think there's a little bit less of that in this episode for Tony specifically. The one character that I was interested in that makes a very surprising choice is Christopher, actually. I think Christopher has like the most dramatic arc over the course of this episode, where he feels the frustration of wanting to be made and to be inducted into the family, and kind of this like young, ambitious energy that is stewing, and ultimately chooses to sit it out and choosing to stay loyal to the family. And I think that is a fascinating arc for that character as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Because even in the previous episode, kind of where Christopher's story ends in the pilot episode, is he wants to go off and he wants to sell his story. He wants to be in this movie about his life. It's this very like, I want to make it for me. I want to make my own way in the world, even if it's at the
Yeah.
expense of the family. And so I love that we see, a continuation of that in the beginning when they're robbing these trucks and stuff, but him ultimately deciding that like, no, I'm going to follow the process and I'm going to stay in line. What I really love about that though is that, when things go wrong and Christopher ends up calling Tony, and Christopher wants a gold star cuz he didn't participate in the theft.
Mm.
And then Tony's like, well, what did you do to stop it? Like, where was your leadership
Yeah.
in trying to prevent this from happening? So I love that dynamic too, and I'm curious to see how Tony's response to Christopher might make Christopher want to rebel even more, if he's going to get in trouble even for, not participating, then if you're going to get in trouble either way, well, why not benefit from it? So I'm curious to see if that's going to sow something different in Christopher, and maybe start to like water that little seed of rebellion that we saw in the pilot episode in the beginning of this episode. So I think this could be potentially teeing up some really interesting things with that character.
Yeah, Chris feels like he's vacillating back and forth between that rebelliousness, that desire to be independent and the defiance, but also his intuition, also desiring to feel like he's part of this community, that he belongs, that he can receive that honor and glory and power that he sees that Tony has, that he wants to. I thought that that moment where Tony kind of asks him to hire and says, but when leadership is, your loyalty to this family is to protect the family. So you sitting out is you protecting yourself. But if you were thinking about protecting the family and our family's relationships and kind of going an extra mile, like really buying in, you would have tried to stop this because you know the ripple effects. And so kind of Tony calling him out for saying like, you're still looking out for yourself, my dude. Like, yes, good job. You didn't participate, but if you want to be a part of this, it's gonna ask more of you, and it's gonna ask you to give all of yourself to it, which is very much part of that induction process and pledging your loyalty to the family. Is you got to have skin in the game, and if you don't, like, we can't use you. I'm sorry, like you are a risk to us. So I loved the way that Tony kind of like fathers him in that way and says like, in this weird twisted way, of like, why are you not giving more of yourself to our family? But there's a truth in that. Like there's a selfishness that I think Christopher's clearly still operating out of, where he's just looking out for his own skin and looking out for his own ass versus really buying into the larger system. So fascinating to see that moment.
Yeah, yeah. What does it mean to actually be family and part of this? He wants to be a made man, he wants to be in the books, but like what does that actually mean? And Christopher has
Yeah.
no idea. So that's also going to be interesting to see him maybe learning some of these lessons, and seeing, oh, do I actually really want what is required for me to get that thing that I think that I want? Am I willing to sacrifice that much in order to get that? We'll see. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
episodes left, so we'll see what they do with Christopher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm super fascinated by Christopher's character because those equal parts of him feel like they're in tension with each other, and he's torn as well. The common denominator is obviously like he seeks to be respected, he seeks power, he seeks self-actualization, but how and where he feels like he can find that is going to vacillate and change. And I think one of the older guys in the first episode called him a loose cannon, and I think that's perfectly accurate. An agent of chaos, and gonna have some real ripple effects for our dude Tony, who's gonna have to clean up some messes and figure out what to do with this dude.
And I love that after everything goes wrong, Brendan calls Christopher. That's his first instinct. And Christopher's instinct is to call Tony. Like, even
Yeah.
though Christopher knows that Brendan screwed up, disobeyed a direct order, knows that he
Yep.
and Brendan will probably both get in trouble, he still knows, I need to call Tony.
Yeah.
That is the only move. And so I appreciate that Christopher doesn't try and go and like clean it up himself, because I mean, he
True.
could have. They were the only two that really knew about it. But instead, he decides to come clean. And so I think that is as Christopher is battling this like selfishness versus this loyalty thing, individual versus family thing, it's interesting that instead of trying to cover it up to protect himself, he goes to family. He goes to Tony and knows that whatever punishment they're going to get is
Yeah.
better than trying to go it alone. So that's another interesting piece. Christopher is just fascinating. So he's going to be a
Yes.
really cool
I would
character
agree.
to follow, because in 2 episodes we've seen so many different sides of him and some really interesting decisions that he's made over the course of only 2 episodes.
Yeah, even when he chooses to bow out, his reasoning for it to Brendan is notable too. He's not bowing out because he's like, listen, I'm gonna make more money over here with these guys, so like that's my choice because it's still for me. He's thinking about it from a macro level and kind of using the same points made and language that all the older guys are using, which is like, what what is the what is the value of this thing that we call family if we can't be loyal, and like he's thinking about it almost from this principled value system perspective versus just choosing to bow out because he's calculated that it's better for him to stay. He's thinking about it kind of with this ideology that Junior stands for, that Tony stands for, that we see that like Paulie and some of the other guys are also feeling that like this only works when we all buy into it. And whenever any of us choose to like go protect ourselves, this whole thing falls apart. And Christopher's intuition and ability to articulate that so clearly, and that being his operating mindset when he chooses to bow out, is so interesting as well. So I loved that bit.
Yes, a lot of good Christopher content, and I'm sure we got a lot more to come.
Yes, yes. What are some other big things that stood out to you in this episode?
I think it's also notable the Tony Jr. Dynamic in this episode, because the pilot episode ends with Junior kind of making this threat of like,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to do something about Tony. And then in this episode, they're aligned with each other. And I find that really interesting that, there's some
Mm,
tension there, but on the whole, they're on the same side in this episode. And I just think that that's a really
mm,
interesting progression, and maybe a different dynamic in the way that this whole like something about Tony plot is going to go down, because
mm.
Junior doesn't seem to be moving on it right now. So is he like
Plotting.
calculating, waiting for the pieces on the game board to get in just the right spot, and then he's going to
Yes.
make his move? So I love that we don't see any moves. We don't really even see any like rumblings of that
No,
from
yeah.
Junior in this episode. And so I'm just so curious to see when that line from the pilot episode is going to come back up later in this season, because it's kind of laying dormant in this episode.
Looming, but the show has not cashed in on it yet. And I'm so excited. I hope we see some like long term scheming from Junior. Like, I feel like the characters on the show really underestimate Junior. They're like, this guy he's like lost several times and come in second with all these people all along. He just this forgotten old washed up dude. And I would love to see Junior come out swinging. Um, it's probably not going to end well for him, or I would like it to not end well for him because I mean, you can't make a move that big and like come out and unscathed. You're going to come out scathed. But I think it'd be fascinating to see Junior work this system for his advantage, and how will Tony get wind of it, and what will Tony's responses be, and the loyalties and the emotions and the feeling. And I think there's something interesting too about specifically Junior being the brother of Livia and the complicated feelings that Tony has with his father and with his mother. And you know what I mean? I think there's something interesting of like Junior's not just some like guy from another family who's trying to take over and that's what the feud will be. It's kind of internal to the family, and there's a lot of emotional ties in this arena. So I think that also makes it more interesting and complicated at the same time too.
Yeah, it's always more interesting when it's family because you get all
Yes.
those extra dynamics as opposed to if it was just some rival crew. Like, oh, that's simple. But no,
Hmm.
it's family. So there's a lot of emotions there, a lot of hurt there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I also love those moments in the therapist's office in this episode,
Yes.
and her kind of pressing on that and Tony's guilt and his suppressed
Yeah.
anger toward his mom. And so I think those two things paired together, this simmering potential feud with Junior and Tony's difficult relationship with his mom, I think are going to collide in some really interesting ways. So I'm really looking forward to
Yeah.
exploring that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think there's so much Livia in this episode, which I was like, oh, what we're really spending a lot of time on this plot line. And one of the things that I really appreciated about the way that this is paced in time and kind of the details of Tony's relationship with his mother is how much a lot of this emotion is coming out as he's seeing her age and her kind of in that final phase of her life. And I feel like that is so true to life. I think a lot of times it's easy for us to suppress a lot of these feelings and whatnot. But when we see that person start to decline, it just inevitably like touches on those boxes that we've probably put away for a long time. And so you see these like parallel trajectories of Livia's decline, physical decline, and her talking about death, and Tony's guilt and anger all coming out at the same time. And I think that alignment and that like pairing of how those things are starting to increase in intensity is very human, very accurate to the way that I think a lot of times like watching our like parents or families age and having to almost be forced to face those things that maybe we've tried not to face for the longest time. It just kind of just gets shoved into your face and you have to figure out how to deal with all of it. Yeah.
And I love that we're seeing all sorts of different emotions from Tony too. He's frustrated at his mom who's just being stubborn, obviously the repressed anger, all of that is in there too. But there's also just like a real sadness there. I loved that scene when Tony is just quietly packing up his mom's house, and it's so quiet, it's so still, and it's so like filled with emotion as he's just like looking at these pictures on the mantle. And then of course he has the almost panic attack. And so I love that we're able to just sit in these emotions with him, and really see what he's experiencing and going through, and like feeling those with him as he's processing through all of these really big changes in his life. And the way that his mom getting older is also, unearthing some feelings that he has about his dad and unprocessed stuff with his dad too. So I think this is a great setup for a lot of that like emotional exploration that I'm hoping that this show will continue to do of this really interesting and complex character.
Yes. Yeah. Um, it will be fascinating to see how that continues to grow and evolve, but there's definitely a lot that's kind of like being released right now that we're seeing happen. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think other big things or moments that we wanted to shout out, call out that happens in the second episode. I've got two on my list. Any others from you?
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Um, one of the things that I found really interesting, and it gets a whole moment and a beat, is Polly fixated in the coffee shop around the way that the U.S. has exploited Italian culture and bringing espressos and cappuccinos to America and making money off of it, and things like pizza and pasta also being like leveraged and exploited in the States. And I think it makes for a really funny moment, but it's also such an interesting larger commentary on the way that because America is this melting pot of so many immigrant cultures, that there are these things that like have been taken from their original homelands and are commercialized or made more palatable to American audiences, and then are widespread, like I am Chinese. And so seeing like Chinese food also be like taken and used and Americanized is a interesting dynamic of like the US cultural experience, because we don't have like centuries of culture to pull from, that we've like taken other cultures that of people that have come here and tried to figure out how to make it available and accessible. And it's fascinating that Polly is specifically focused on not just the cultural exploitation of it, but also the like financial gains too. I think it's just indicative of like how much their minds are focused on money as power in their world, but also kind of that business mindset that he has around like, oh no, they're driving so many revenue gains from this thing that is ours. And you get to see that pride he has in his culture, but also I think that tension of being an immigrant and being proud of your culture, but then seeing it clash with maybe the ways that it's being expressed in American culture and feeling that tension. So they revisit it not once, but twice too. They come back to that moment again of Polly staring at the coffee machines. And I think there's such a like beat there that feels very intentionally designed to help us just open our eyes to see how much culture we have in America that really comes from other places that are not from here, and recognizing and honoring those things. So I loved that moment. It was really funny, but also felt like such wider commentary too.
Yes, I loved that moment. And I love that it's you touched on it. It's that financial piece of it too. This almost feeling of like somebody has stolen this, like this is rightfully ours, like why aren't we profiting off of it? And I think that that's a really interesting idea to pair with something that was really explored in the pilot episode of they're having to change the way that they do business because the income and the money isn't there anymore. And so it's almost this like looming like business pressure, money pressures. And then he comes into this coffee shop where they've stolen a bunch of his culture, and he's like, well, why couldn't we do this? Like this should be ours, then our money problems would be solved. And so I
Yeah.
love that tie-in there. Obviously it makes for a funny moment and all the cultural exploitation stuff, which is really important, but also kind of highlighting some of his maybe fears or anxieties that he's processing through as they are having to change their business, because things aren't easy right now. Things used to be good, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not as good now. And so, man, if we could just have done this other thing, then maybe we would be set right now. I think is an interesting part of it as well.
Yeah, maybe we should have like opened coffee shops instead of gambling rings and like underground to organize. I mean, it's such a pairing, that moment with the scene that the episode opens with them talking about organized crime and how like inevitably out of survival, like immigrants have come here and tried to make money, even and fulfill these needs and these businesses are that are like where the human wants to spend time, and whether it's gambling or it's all of these like underground underbelly businesses, but as long as the human desire for that is there, like organized crime will exist is kind of the thesis that they make. And it feels like Polly's like, but if we just did this, maybe we wouldn't have to like kill people and blackmail people and whatnot. I don't know. I don't. Yeah, that's a nice idealized potential multiverse strand. Yeah. Um. The other thing that I really loved in this episode, and I think is smart for the show to do, is revisiting a lot of those neighborhood spots again that we were introduced to in the first episode. And I imagine that those places will be revisited again and again, and that sense of comfort and familiarity we feel, I think, adds to our connection to the show and to the characters. So sitting outside the meat market, being back at Silvio's strip club. Like these are common places that I think are like owned by people in the family. So like we're going to go have our meetings there. But I think for us as the viewers, it's a great way for us to feel like we're part of this neighborhood too. And we know those spots. And there's a sense of comfort and familiarity as we're watching the show of like, oh yeah, we're hanging out with our dudes outside the meat market at 9 a.m., sipping our coffee, talking about who we need to whack. That's just another Tuesday. And that sense of familiarity is really smart to do to help us buy in and kind of be immersed into the show and into the world of the show. So I thought that was a really great device used.
Another piece that I loved in this episode that feels reminiscent of the first episode as well is that moment when Tony is talking about his mom, and he talks about that he's so proud of her for like driving her friends around, and he says gives me hope, and then the hard cut
Oh
to
yeah,
mom actually driving, and it's just a whole mess. And so I just appreciate those little moments throughout the episode
the
where the
editing.
editing really makes for some
Oh,
good comedic moments. The editors were on it again. They killed it in this
they
episode once
were.
again. So I love those little bits where we're where we do a hard cut to something and it just makes for a perfect comedic moment.
It's so good. The editing is so sharp. One of the editing moments that I jotted down that I really loved is in that opening scene when they're sitting around counting money and the TV voiceover is talking about confusion, instability, and it's just this like close up shot of money falling from their bags that they're counting. And it's so great. That juxtaposition that the editing does is so humorous and so sharp and very intelligent. So shout out to the editors, man. The intuition is on point.
Oh, it's so good. I loved that opening conversation too.
It's
That
so
was
good.
so funny. I'm a sucker for in TV or movies when you have a group of people and they're all having different conversations at the same
Yes.
time. I don't know why. I love that. I eat that up. It's so good. And my favorite part is where one of the characters, I forget who it is, he tells a joke to someone over here and then he turns to the other person and he says verbatim what he said. Like I loved it. We hear the joke twice, and it's just so funny that he not only had to make the joke once, but he had to say it again just to make sure that it was fully appreciated by this other person over here because his joke was so good in his own mind. I loved all of those little moments and seeing this like group dynamic as they're having all of these weird random conversations that have nothing to do with one another. Oh, it was so good. It was so fun. It was so chaotic. Loved it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they're all tracking. They're all keeping up. They all can keep it straight. They're also all in their own little worlds, talking about whatever they want to talk about. You know what I mean? Like Chris is in the corner just spewing something that he thinks is important, but they're all going to respond to each other like 3 comments later when they finally realize somebody else said something, and they're done. It's so good. That scene is great. Honestly, a highlight of this episode. Shout out to the
Honestly.
Marty cameo.
Yes,
So
yes. I
funny.
wanted to make sure that we had a moment to
A
think about your
moment.
guy, Martin Scorsese.
Hmm. Yes, yes. The show loves to nod to like iconic, classic,
Mhm.
like staples of this genre, which I think is also indicative of like who these people are too, of them like having these idealized versions, these like boyhood visions of what they want to be. Like in the first episode, there's a whole moment where two dudes, I forget who they were like taking the body out at night, and like one of them's like, yeah, but remember like Lucas Brasi sleeps with the fishes, and he's like, nah, that's different. Different moment. It's not the same. It's funny to see these dudes like want to live that out too. So, but it's also, I think, nod to us as the viewers, the me's of the world.
Yes, yes, definitely the use of the world. But I love that that this show exists in the multiverse strand where Scorsese is making movies, and I think that that's just really fun.
Yes. Yes. Agreed. Agreed. Okay, any other last things before we give out TV and us awards? Anything from you?
No, I think we can go to awards.
All right, so TV and Us awards. The first category is most family oriented. So, Sarah, what is your choice for this one? Also, can you totally hear the sirens in the background?
Yes, I can totally hear
Okay,
the sirens in the
wonderful.
background.
Love it. The drama of the moment as we introduce the TV and Us
Hey,
awards.
man, it's a big deal. We need to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
people understand these are important awards that we're going to give away. Yeah, so
Oh,
my pick for family
oh my
oriented,
gosh, that's so loud.
there are so many.
I'm just gonna go on
Wow.
mute while you share your award choice, okay?
All right, so my choice for family-oriented character is the strippers who were really concerned about Tony's mom after his conversation on the phone. I just love that they all come over and like, is your mom okay? Like nobody else cares except for the strippers. So shout out to them. They're doing a great job.
Oh my gosh. No, that's so great. It's hilarious. I mean, that's another great comedic moment where
Yeah.
you just see Tony on the phone with his mom, with Livia, and like the shot is perfectly framed that he don't only takes up the right one third
Mhm.
of the frame, and it's
Yep.
just two naked girls to the left, and you're like, and Livia's on the other
Just
side being like, "Huh, Anthony, where are
just a
you? My
really wholesome moment.
Oh, great choice, great choice. I went for Chris's change of heart. His
Ah,
loyalty
yes.
shined through for now.
Yes. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
he's
For this
family
episode, he
oriented
chose the
for
family.
now. Yeah, just for now. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Got
It's
my
so
eye on
good.
him. Most explosive moment. What is your choice?
Uh, I wanna give this to, Livia for running her friend over with her car.
Yeah. Oh, the cuts to back to
Oh my
Tony
gosh.
recounting and be like, how's the Dr. Melfi? How's the other gal? Oh, broken hip.
Hip.
Oh, yikes. Oh, Olivia's a star, truly a star.
She is.
Um, I'm gonna give this one to Tony storming out of Melfi's office, just
Ah,
throwing a
yes.
tantrum. Gotta
Yep.
love when this middle-aged dude just loses it and angrily stomps out.
Yes. He has a
So
lot of big feelings that he is just
a
not sure what to
lot,
do with, so
no
that means
idea.
that his feet gotta move.
Yeah, we
Oh,
gotta
buddy.
run. We gotta run out of
Yep.
there. Okay, double meaning dialogue. What is your choice for this one?
My choice for this one is, when Tony yells at the therapist, "I'm sad!" It's like, buddy, you're not. I mean, yes, you are sad, but there's a lot of other emotions underneath that sadness. You just don't know that there are additional layers of meaning to that sentence.
Yeah, it's so funny. And she's like, okay, yes, yes. And
Yeah.
sadness can be accompanied by
And
anger as well. Yes. Oh, I love those sequences. My
Mhm.
moment is also from a therapist scene with Dr.
Mm.
Melfi when she asks him, after he's told the story about his father falling down the stairs, she goes, so any other loving memories? Oh, it's so good.
I
It's so
loved
funny.
that moment that, like, she's asking him for, like, a happy family memory, and he thinks about it. Like, he has to consider this for a beat, and then this is the story that he comes up with of his father falling down the stairs and them all laughing at him. Like,
Yeah.
what? That is the wholesome family moment. Oh, it's so good.
Yep. 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 Yeah. Oh, it's so great. It's so great. Looking ahead, what are you excited to see next? Coming up here.
Yeah, I'm excited for some more therapy sessions. I'm interested in this like simmering junior feud business and when is junior gonna strike? Um and then like like we mentioned, Livia is a star. So I want more time with her because I just love this character, and she is so wild. And so I'm always excited when she's on screen. So I'm hoping to see more of her, especially now that she is in her retirement community, hopefully getting settled there. And what hijinks is she going to encounter now that she is in a different location? Because she can't be hijink free. So, what are we going to see from her next?
Livia needs like her own show that's like a sitcom where she's like, what is Livia doing today at the retirement home? Like, who is she yelling at? Like, I think that would be hilarious. She is a star, truly. Yeah, I'm excited to see Junior. I want to see Junior plot and scheme and play the long game. I don't care if it takes us like a season to see him just like hatch this plan that's grand and epic. I'm ready for it. There's also an interesting mention from Christopher and Brendan, where they say that like the current family Don boss is kind of just like a sitting duck, and that Tony's really actually running the business, but Tony seems to not want that job. And so I'm just intrigued. Like, that's an interesting dynamic and a very unstable time of like, it's not good when your acting boss is viewed to be weak and to not be really in control. And we haven't met any other families yet. I don't know if that's part of the, like what the show's gonna do, but are we going to see some rival forces come through at this moment of crisis, this moment of instability? How will Tony's desires for that like change and shift over time as his ambitions grow, or as his trauma needs new places to be expressed, I guess, and new fixations, perhaps? So that seems to be like a notable little detail that I don't think we knew as clearly in the first episode. And then yeah, I'm loving time with Polly and the other muscle and everyone else that's close to him. I think we meet also some of the other like allies within Tony's orbit. So colorful cast of characters, honestly, just love to see them scheme together and to have their rapport. So would love to meet more people in this world.
Yes, yeah, because everybody has been so colorful and interesting so far. So,
Yep.
seeing more of these colorful characters usually leads to some interesting clashes, which is always just fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, this was our review and discussion of episode 2 of Sopranos season 1. You can find it available to stream on HBO Max. Thank you for listening to today's episode of TV and Us. Our name sums it up. We're big fans of TV and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories, so everyone is welcome here, and we're so glad you spent time with us today as we now continue our journey through The Sopranos season 1. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review, letting us know your favorite Livia moment from this episode. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at tvnspod, or email us at tvnspod@gmail.com. Check out our website, andusmedia.co, for the latest on TV and Us and our other podcast, Movies and Us. We'll be back very soon for episode 3. More scheming, more espresso, more drama, more temper tantrums. We can't wait to see it. We hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk again with y'all very soon.